Well, hello and welcome to Apple Tree Cottage in the Scottish borders. It's lovely to see you and thank you for tuning in today. Today is Tuesday the 29th of April 2025 and this is Flosstube number 20, and off we go with a programme today about sampler stitching, knitting, and a little invention of my own, which I'm looking forward to sharing with you. But first of all, the samplers. What have I been knitting? What have I been stitching this week? Well, one of two top favourites, Come Into My Garden by Blackbird Designs. I'm just absolutely loving this, as you will know, and steadily working down from the top. And I'm stitching this not with the called for fabric, which is 36 count velt. I've gone for something slightly different, which actually I prefer. I do have velt and I certainly stitch on velt by Picture This Plus. But in this case, I'm actually finding that the threads, which are Weeks Dye Work selection by Barb Adams, who designed and stitched this, goes better with my choice, which I will show you now. Oops-a-daisy. Which is a rather more sandy colour. And I think that the thread selection looks absolutely gorgeous on this colour of linen. And the colour of linen is 36 count vintage country mocha or mocha. Probably mocha, I would say. 36 count vintage country mocha. Is working extremely well with this one, and I know there's a little bit of a debate about the choice of velt because I was listening to Brenda and the serial starter, Brenda and Laura, who were saying that for this one they weren't happy with the choice of velt, that they thought it looked too grey. So I'm finding that the vintage country mocha is absolutely beautiful with this, but Brenda doesn't like, it's all so complicated, isn't it? And of course it's personal choice at the end of the day. But she's saying she doesn't like this particular fabric for samplers. Something about that it's just mottled on the front and not the back. Anyway, I am loving it. I'm stitching it on the mottled side and I'm working down from the top. I have actually stitched all of the border right the way round, bar two flower motifs on either side. So I've worked the top and the foot of it, and now I'm working down gradually in sections. So for this week I have done the two flower motifs and part of the roof. Now I do get bored with houses. I have to say, some people love houses. I know Carol Saltbox Stitcher has said she loves stitching houses. Isn't it funny how there are just some aspects of samplers that we love, and then others that we're patient with and we work through, and you never know, I may end up in a week or a month or two saying, oh, I love houses. So just don't keep me to what I'm saying at the moment. But I do find houses with all the windows etc rather tedious. So when I have an aspect of a sampler that I find tedious, I try and sandwich it with something that I am finding more interesting. And in a way I haven't really succeeded because I started with this one and on completion I should really have gone for the house and maybe perhaps done a third of the house, but I went straight over and did the other flower motif on the other side. They're beautiful. They're absolutely lovely. It's coming out beautifully. But there are 2 birds going to happen pretty soon, and another couple of small flower motifs. So I will be just jumping back and forward between them, or at least this is the plan, and the house itself, as I come down rather more steadily. If I show you that on the pattern itself. Bird and a bird, they're actually on flowers, and a few of these little sort of star motifs going around here to be completed. So my plan is not to come any further down into these flower motifs until I've completed all of this. And I imagine the next time I see you, I will have had one of the birds and maybe perhaps a third of the house done, because I'm alternating this on a week by week basis with Merrily, Merrily We Welcome the Spring, which I will be showing you, if all goes to plan, next episode next week. This is the other one. So I'm alternating the 2 and enjoying both of them. Both of them blackbird designs. As followers will know, the vast majority of my charts are blackbird. I've come to samplers late in life and so when did I stitch? I came, I think, in 2018, 2019, and something like that, and a little bit of a break, not much, and then really got into it, I think last year. So, I'm finding my way in is vastly through blackbird designs. They suit me for the demands that they're making on my stitching, on my focus and concentration, and I love the designs, and I absolutely love their color choices most of the time. And as you'll know, the reason that one of the reasons that I started sampler stitching was because I grew up with an antique sampler as a child, and I inherited it rather more recently, and it sort of became much more important for me maybe about 10 years ago, something like that. So it's gradually worked its way into my life, and then it's just a wonderful thing to have. So without more ado, we'll go on to the next one, which is I think I'll give you another blackbird. Let's go with this one. Basket of Cherries. Now, if you didn't know too much about samplers, or coming to it as still learning as I am, you would think, oh, this is a quick stitch, and these other big ones are going to take so long. They're going to. Well, I don't know about that. I had thought that I would have this completed by this week for you, but no, absolutely not. I'm loving doing it, and I'll show you in a minute where my progress is, but not that far along. And the reason is because this is Blackbird Designs. It was designed again by Barb Adams, and there are, again, a great many colours in it for the size of actual design. So I'm finding that I'm stopping a colour, starting a new one, stopping a colour, starting a new one, and also having to really focus on which colour am I going for now. So when it comes to sort of inch by inch proportionally, the actual times to stop and change your thread and start all over again are vastly increased in this design compared with Come Into My Garden. just so as you know. So these, oh well, I'm just doing a small one, and if you don't know much about cross stitch, you think, oh well, you know, she's not going for the big thing, she's just going for a small one. So there you go. Having said that, love doing these juicy cherries and the very cheerful bird. Last time I showed you it, I had completed the bird. The bird was relatively easy and quick to do. And I'm working down from the top, and as you can see, am I halfway finished? I don't think I'm even halfway finished yet. I don't think I'm halfway finished. And I think you get the idea when you look at it very closely. Even in the leaves, there are 2 different greens. So you may be stitching 6, 10 stitches, and then you start, you take that colour off and come to a new thread and start all over again. So this is 32 count cocoa, and I'll tell you who produces that in a moment. Have I written it down? I'm loving this darker. I think it must be. Oh, I think it's Weeks Dye Works. In fact, it's here, isn't it? It's on here. I'm using exactly what they've asked for. Yes, it is. It's Weeks Dye Works. Originally, I didn't like Weeks Dye Works. It was very, very loose. But I think there's sort of mention of them now on a Zweigart base. Not sure if this is, but it's certainly it's a less loose weave. Put it that way. And just look at those colours. Isn't that lovely? It's just so cheerful. It measures 4 inches by 4 inches ultimately, which is just a lovely size to make up into a pin cushion, again probably for a gift. It's Gentle Art sampler threads for all of them. Lovely, just beautiful, just beautiful. Right, now, and then the third one. In a way, I wisely kept to 3 for this week, and it's just as well, because I've managed a little bit more progress. This is my project bag. That is Cathedral Window. It's a pocket. I'm working Anne Grant in silk. Lovely silks, a mixture of different, there's Gloriana and needlepoint and something else. What's the other one? I think that's mostly what it is. Gloriana, needlepoint. Silks. I'm going to show you the chart. I don't think we want that, do we? I want to show you the picture. Anne Grant. 1829. There's the original. It's you'll find it at Shakespeare's Peddler. This is Teresa Vinette, and this is her sampler, and this is her model of it. Just loving this, absolutely loving it. Love the border. The silk is Camelot's Lady, that pink, absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, and a really nice verse, and I'm just loving, absolutely loving doing this. When I was stitching a little this morning, when I sit with Anne Grant, I become intensely calm. There's something that is translated from this original sampler in the stitching and through, and those of you who are sampler stitchers will know what I'm talking about. There's something that translates through, and I'm just loving the stitching. This one, that Camelot's Lady pink, just beautiful, just beautiful. Just taking it steadily. As you can see, I'm not a fast stitcher, and the fabric is Zweigart Edinburgh. Zweigart pre-cut Edinburgh, which I obtained from Fobbles, F for Freddie, OBBLES, which is one of my suppliers it's in England. And it's Edinburgh Zweigart Vintage 3009 36 count. Now, Teresa Vanette, Shakespeare's peddler, has given instructions, sizes for different counts. And she also gives quite a lot of background, so very helpful. However, I had rushed ahead and not read to the bottom of the page and had started the alphabet, but not realised that it was in Algerian I. So, and I love stitching Algerian I. So this week I had done the A in cross stitch, and so I took it out and I put in the Algerian I for the alphabet, and I've got as far as D. I'm just working along and just loving it, Now, a little about knitting, and I have been asked by a lovely lady who commented on my video episode last time. I was wearing a particular, I call it cardigan, and she inquired about it. So as promised, I'm now going to include a little section on this garment, and I haven't worn it, as you can see today. But it's a cream coloured, very unusual sort of design. Certainly for the 21st century. And I love wearing this. So I'll give you a little bit of the backstory to this because it's quite interesting. When I moved back to England, I had been living in Northern Ireland, and I moved back to a city called Bristol, which is in the west of England. And at that time, it was quite a difficult time in my life, I think, really moving back into England. But I usually find that there are pluses and minuses wherever you go. I always say that wherever you live, there are pluses and minuses, and you run with the pluses and put up with the minuses, or try and rectify them if you possibly can. So a plus at this time, not the only plus, but a plus was something called Victoria magazine. And Victoria magazine at the time was edited by a lady called Nancy Lindemeyer. And I discovered this, and it came, I think, every month. Now, I think it is still running, but it is a different magazine now to what was produced in the 1990s. I just loved it so much that I actually have a collection in my bookcase. Obviously, I didn't have all of them, but I have enough, and I cover all of the months, and I usually have maybe 2 or 3 issues through the 1990s for each of the months of the year. And now and again, I'll still come back and look at Victoria magazine. I don't have any other magazines, actually, so this is still, and it really does date me. I love traditional things. Anyway, Victoria magazine, this was January 1995. And a number of years ago, I was just sitting enjoying this magazine, and I came across an article. It's called A Winter Journal from Classic Patterns, A Graceful Wardrobe. And they all have absolutely beautiful clothes in Victoria magazine, and rather lovely looking models. I turned the page, and an article, A Winter Journal, Fleece Soft as Snow. Fleece Soft as Snow. And what jumped out at me at first, this is a number of years ago, was the bowl of creamy coloured, I call it wool. It would have been 100% wool. With wooden knitting needles. I don't know if you can see them there sticking out of the bowl. And at the time I went, oh wow, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. There's a basket of, I think, fleece and a knitted hat or cap here, and this absolutely gorgeous chunky sweater with the lovely bit of lace. That really appealed to me as well. And as you may know, a couple of episodes ago, I had started a knitted lace collar just for such an occasion. I haven't done any more of that, but no doubt you'll be seeing it at some point. Anyway, what I did quite like the idea of this one, but it was this one here that absolutely sold me. And I'll just read it to you. A softer alternative to a blazer, this diamond patterned hand spun tuck cardigan, it's called a tuck cardigan, has a slight blouson effect and gracefully strides the hip. This is a sweater you can wear very casually with a turtleneck, perhaps with its lapel closed or with the lapel open. You can see you can detach the lapel and swing it across. You can dress it up with a pretty pin and a silk skirt, says Nancy. Now, I'm not quite sure if that was the Nancy who was producing. Yes, and this was a lady who ran a farm. Nancy Oliver Clark's grandmother taught her that a sweater is only as good as its wool. Completely agree with that. So 11 years ago, when she decided to take up knitting, she resolved that nothing less than raising her own sheep and learning to spin their fleece would do. My goodness. So that would have been 11 years from 84, early 80s. Today, customers in search of fine sweaters and yarns smooth as silk head straight for her New Jersey farm, evidence that perfectionism often pays off. And her name was Nancy Oliver Clark with an E. And I tried to, there is shopping information, I tried to track down the farm, but I couldn't. So I have no idea whether it's still going or not. But that was the origin of this. And of course I couldn't therefore find out the pattern, and I couldn't find out what wool she'd used. So I thought I'll do my own. And so I chose one of my absolute favourite wools, which is Jamieson and Smith Shetland 2-ply jumper weight, which is what this is. And you can go directly to Jamieson and Smith in Shetland, and they will send abroad from Shetland. 2-ply jumper weight, that's the weight. It's got a beautiful drape. It hand washes like a dream, and it's really warm, absolutely beautiful. Well, I love knitting with it. The other outlet that I sometimes do use is an outlet called Wool Warehouse, which is down in England, and they certainly stock some of the 2-ply jumper weight if you want to go to them. And again, they do ship. They're known for shipping very quickly. So this is the wool that I used, and I had to really scratch my head over what the actual pattern was that the original had used. And in the end, I had a jolly good close look at it, but I went for this, it's a sort of a daisy stitch on the back and on the two fronts. I'd done a nice deep rib so that it would sit on the hips, as the advert had said. And then the actual collar that comes across is garter stitch. That's garter stitch. Trying to get it as close to the original as possible. Now, again, if you've followed me a little, you'll know that I love writing journals. I absolutely love keeping records of virtually everything I make. it's lovely to have a record anyway. Hopefully they'll be passed on. But probably an even more important reason for me keeping a record is that if I'm jumping from one thing to another, knitting, then stitching, cross stitch, etc., embroidery, I can lose track and I can forget where I was or what I was using. And certainly when it comes to lace knitting, if I don't keep a track, I am lost. This was before I started my knitting journal, which is probably why I started the journal. I have no record. I've no record of what I used. I can tell you by looking that this is garter stitch. And I did actually, I'll tell you in a moment, I did find the stitch. But what I used for the sleeves, I'm sorry, I couldn't tell you what I used for the sleeves. So it's slightly up to you. And certainly going back to the original, it is rather more of a diamond or a diagonal that is used there, and certainly that's more of an open chain stitch of some reason or other. I also had bought buttons just like these, the faux leather, but I felt they were a little bit heavy for the look that I finally ended up with. So what did I use? I think I used shell. Yes, the shell buttons. Which are really very easily obtainable. So for the actual stitches, certainly for the back, I used this amazing book. I really like this book. I think I've told you about it before. 750 Knitting Stitches, the Ultimate Knit Stitch Bible. And I looked up earlier today just to find it's St. Martin's Griffin, New York, are the publishers, and it was published in 2015. And I've looked up, and you can certainly still obtain this. I looked up Amazon UK, so I'm sure it would be on Amazon US, and I looked up eBay and their UK, and there are a great many copies if you're interested in getting this. It's beautifully laid out, absolutely beautifully. They have knitted up the square and photographed it very well. The directions are extremely clearly laid out, and I have used quite a number of these patterns, and the directions are correct. I've not come across any mistakes whatsoever in the patterns. They do give you an introduction to how to knit, which is always useful if you're just beginning, and they also tell you how to knit charts, from how to read charts. Again, extremely useful. I never started with charts at all. I've learned and knitted with written out directions, so it did take me a while to get my head around charts, but finally managed that. Some lovely photos here, very good examples. Advice on knitting lace, advice on knitting edgings, the key abbreviations. It's just a fantastic book. It really is, for knitters of even if you're starting. Contents, tools and equipment. Starting off, key to stitch diagrams, abbreviations, knit and purl stitches, cable and Aran stitches, lace and eyelet stitches, colourwork stitches, edgings and trims. So what more can you want? Well, of course, we always want a new knitting book. So, but an absolute must for knitters in their library. Wonderful. Whole section on cable if you like cable, lace. So I chose, I think I've identified it, though I have no memory of it. I think I chose this one here. It looks pretty similar, doesn't it? Ornamental stitches, they're calling it. And it does look very like what I did choose. So say I've no idea what I used for the sleeves. But you know, the bow knot next to it, bow knot, that's a lovely one as well. That would do very well. So Ann Budd, B-U-D-D, and I think it's A-N-N without an E. Her sweater book really was the way for me, the doorway into being able to structure my own garment and design my own garment. Wonderful, and I would certainly have that in my knitting library as well. So there we are. Now, a couple more things. Where am I with my socks? I have completed the heels on both of them. So I now have 2 heels completed. I've turned them. It took a morning each, and no interruptions. And I will show you the book that I use. There we are, little turned heel. Can you see that? And I have included a tutorial on how to do these little holders. One's reversible, they're reversed. That's my right foot, that's my left foot, just to keep me neatly organized. And this is lace. I better just tell you all this over again. Lace, I absolutely love knitting lace, and this is for my winter bed socks. Very, very important to have bed socks in a Scottish climate. The wool I'm using is Yorkshire Spinners. I'll get the label out for you. West Yorkshire Spinners, 4-ply signature Marshmallow 011, and I think I probably obtained that from Wool Warehouse as well, but I don't actually promise you that's where I obtained it. It might have been somewhere, but look, anyway, I'm pretty sure they have. And so that is my progress with my socks. And the book that I am using is Around the World in Knitted Socks, 26 Inspired Designs. And this is an absolutely gorgeous book. I have raved about it before. So if you're interested, just look back on a previous episode. I'm doing Brussels, and I just decided to go with that length after all. It was touch and go as to whether I was going to make a longer leg, but we'll go with that. I have knitted these. Great fun. Okay, so then the last knitting item that I have to show you today, which I'm working on extremely slowly. I've sat down and worked out that if I do 2 rows a day, it'll be finished by Christmas time. So I might manage, but it's one of these slow, gentle knits. There's no pressure on this one at all. I am using, again, one of my favorite yarns, and I'm calling it a yarn this time because really it isn't wool at all. Rowan Kid Silk Haze, love that. And this is in the colour Grace, so it's a very, very delicate pink. And what else can I tell you about this? The Kid Silk is 70% mohair and 30% silk. I have used Kid Silk Haze for I think maybe more than half a dozen garments now. It is one of my go-to yarns. It washes like a dream, and it's beautifully, beautifully cozy, and it's also lovely to knit. I am using 4mm, that's United States 6 Zing, Knit Pro Zing needles. I like normally to use this type of needle for knitting lace because it has a sharper point than a wooden needle. My top preference is wooden needles, just for the feel of them and for the look of them. But when it comes to lace, I struggle using wooden needles. So I go for the zing. Going for the zing, and the pattern is Old Shale, S-H-A-L-E, which is named after a shale beach. And this is what a shale beach looks like. That's exactly what a shale beach looks like. And it's incredibly easy. It looks so complicated. This is a very easy pattern. I think it's three rows of knit and then one to make the holes, which is just yarn over and yarn together. It's so simple. But I'm taking my time over this, and there we go, and I love it, love it. Yes, it is a Shetland lace pattern, Old Shale, though it's not actually in the original Shetland traditional book that I have. It's not included in my very first book, which was published in the 1980s by a lady called Sarah Donn, D-O-N, and her maiden name was Erskine, so I imagine that she had links certainly with Scotland, if not with Shetland. So it's quite interesting that she has actually not included this in her first book, but there we go. You may know that a week or so ago I chatted to you about my antique sewing table, which at some point or other I will show you, and my idea, which had come sort of from Flora Clickman, to have small antique articles in my antique sewing table, and to make them myself. Now, some of them, of course, will be the pin cushions, the blackbird design. I had been thinking of Victorian keepsakes and traditions, and I've thought of this book that I have called On Women and Friendship, and it is, I think, linked with, I think the photographer was used by Victoria magazine, actually. I'm just seeing who has published it. Yes, it's by Star Okenga, and I'm pretty sure that she was a photographer used by Victoria magazine, just as a link back to another part of the programme. And they used to make, the Victorian ladies would make keepsakes, bookmarks, little cards on perforated paper, and they would stitch them. And there's a lovely one there, a rosy wreath I twine for thee, be happy forever. From Fanny, that's a red bird. From Fanny, just absolutely delightful. And here is I like this one, don't you? That's an arrow with, that must be for Valentine's Day. That's a lovely one there, with the flowers going through it. But again, just a lovely little rosy wreath there. Anyway, as with all of my inventions, I start with a prototype, and if I like the idea, if it's working for me, then I will make it better in some way, hopefully, and do quite a number of them. But I just managed, as I say, to do the one for you this week, the perforated, and I certainly would be making adjustments. This is brown perforated paper. I might try and find a white next, I'm not very sure. And this is the result. A little silk winder, and that's the shape that I cut out on white card, and the actual perforated paper was cut out in that shape first of all. So I had the white card and the perforated paper separately, and then I took I doubled the threads. I used, well, I mean, any cotton. You could use silk as well. I don't know that I would use silk, but any cotton thread. Doubled it up and did my own little cross stitches on it. I did a little rose garden. Is that focusing? A little rose garden on a cross. I painted around the edges, but you can see some of the paint hasn't quite taken. However, I did want to show you this for this week, but I will have to go back and just take a tiny brush and fill in those little white holes. And this is my silk winder. This is my silk winder, and then you keep the silk, enough silk for that part of your sampler stitching, maybe for the day, on each colour on a different winder. So having stitched the crosses in whatever design you want, you then cut out a bit of plain cardboard and glue that to the back. I put a bead in there. Can you see the bead? Love working with beads. Just caught a bead in there with a beading needle, and just to make a focus. So that is my invention of the week, and if I'm not stitching or knitting, then I may well make another couple of those to go in my antique sewing table. So I hope you've been inspired. I've loved sharing with you, and thank you for all the lovely comments. It's just great, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.